What's going on, fight fans? Let's talk about something important that nobody is talking about. I feel that this video needs to exist so that this information is out there, and even for the development team to be aware of your temperament, how you feel about this subject. So after you watch this video, I definitely want you guys to give me your thoughts on this down in the comment section below. But without any further ado, let's get into it. This is Edward, and you're watching Boxing Fanatico. All right, guys, so let's talk about cheating in Esports Boxing Club. How is that going to work? Now, there's two elements to this. We're going to touch on two elements. One, we can't really dive too deep into it because really we won't know until the meta is completely understood. And that sometimes takes years. It took years before, people really understood the pump blocking system in Fight Night and the controlling of the center of the ring and how that attributes to your stamina versus your opponent's stamina, how their stamina reduces quicker if their backs are to the ropes or closer to the ropes versus someone who's punching them with their backs to the center of the ring. So I think that those kind of things took a lot of trial and error to find out what that meta was. The pump blocking obviously just made sense with everything. So the total package of trying to be the most effective player in Fight Night Champion, that took an understanding of the meta, and that took years to really put together. So when it comes to Esports Boxing Club, how is that going to look in respects to the meta of the game? Because it is very possible that even if the meta is understood, the understood meta can still create a realistic representation of the sport or a very entertaining type of style on screen. You know what I mean? Like if the meta is being defensive and offensive and being able to move around the ring and slip, cornering your fighter to hit them, and all of that gets rewarded equally, then those who feel that they want to slip and be more defensive are going to use that style and feel comfortable in that style, and those who feel more aggressive are going to feel more comfortable in that style. It all depends on how you're rewarded in terms of the meta. Now, one problem that Fight Night Champion had was that because the jab, for example, was so easy to dodge, created such a small impact or barely any damage, and was not scored accordingly on the scorecard. So if you were just jabbing somebody all night, but they were hitting you with less punches, but it was straight rights while you were hitting them with jabs, the judges would give it to the judges will give it to the person who was doing the straight right. So there was no incentive in terms of the meta. You weren't going to get the wins on the scorecard. You weren't going to hurt your opponent more than he's hurting you with just throwing straight rights. And it's easier to slip and dodge the jab. So the jab had a higher potential or percentage to whiff than any other punch. So that meta being understood, that's the meta of the game. Once you understand that, why even throw it? You know what I'm saying? You don't really want to throw it unless you're throwing it in increments and in one-shot deals. You're not doubling up the jab, and you're doing it in random moments just to kind of tag the fighter. But there really wasn't much of an incentive to throw it. Now, if you take something like Fight Night Round 3, for example, there's a huge incentive to throw the jab. So Fight Night Round 3 kind of creates a better representation of the sport, of the fight, because of the fact that the jab in the meta has more value. So for example, if you throw the jab, it's the fastest punch. So it's the one that you can get out as quickly as possible to try to intercept them weaving or blocking. You try to hit them with the jab. Or if they're throwing a hook, you can catch them with the jab before they throw the hook, and that can make their hook just go wild. So the jab in terms of efficiency and speed was there. Then, for example, if someone was to parry, it had a there was a pyramid system for the parry. So depending on what type of punch you threw, you were in a parry state for a longer period of time. So for example, if I threw a straight right, I was in a parry state for a really long time. But if I threw a jab, I was only in a parry state for a shorter period of time. So it's safer. That meant that the other person didn't really have much punches that they can throw because I wasn't in that state for so long where a hook or an uppercut can hit me. Only really maybe another jab and a straight right can hit me. So at least I knew I was safe with throwing the jab, even if it gets caught in a parry. If you throw the straight right, it's longer. If you throw the uppercut, it's really long to the point where they can hit you with a massive haymaker. So all of the meta was telling you, listen, the jab is the safest punch and the most effective punch. That made the jab the punch to throw more than any other punch. So the meta forced you to play the game similar to how boxing is displayed on screen in real life. The jab should be your go-to. It should be the safest punch. It should be the punch you throw more than every punch and it should be the punch that lands more than every punch. That's what I mean in terms of making sure that the game's meta aligns with what happens in the real sport. There's going to be people that are going to be frustrated no matter what and complain no matter what. But as long as what you see on screen is a good representation, even if the meta is ripped to shreds and everybody figures out exactly what works the best, even if that's the case, at least what we see on screen is good. Unlike what we see with Fight Night Champions when it's played at the highest level. If two people agree to play sim, there's a completely different situation there. But if it's played at the highest level, we're going to see pump blocking and controlling, pushing of the center of the ring, throwing more power shots than the jab and all of that stuff. But that, to be honest, we won't know until we truly get our hands on the game and people start dissecting it and trying to literally break the game in terms of the meta. But the other thing that we need to talk about are for those who play on PC, the mod control. We haven't really had any of these, licensed boxing games on PC. They don't exist. And this will be the first one. And the crazy thing is, it looks like it's going to be one of the best ones, and it's gonna be on PC. But if it's on PC and people can mod it and modify it and do a bunch of stuff, what is ESBC and Steel City Interactive going to do to prevent that? Will there be an anti-cheat system? Will they be monitoring what's going on in the online competition and banning people for doing modifications to the game code that's going to give them a potential to win? For example, somebody can just make their punch have ultra mega power that supersedes even the cap of how much power you can throw no matter what. They can make their jab be super powerful, where if they jab you, they already rock you from like 2 shots. That's from modifying the game code itself. So I'm hoping that, and that could really only happen because it's on PC. That won't happen. That doesn't happen if you're on a console, because you can't modify anything on the console. So I'm wondering if they're going to attack that, if they're going to ensure that there's no cheat and there's an anti-cheat kind of system applied to it, because cheating and modding has destroyed games. I mean, it's destroyed first-person shooters where people use aimbots, where it just literally goes right into your head and they can shoot and tap you all the time. Just one tap and everybody all over the place because the system that they're using is basically aiming it for them. And this is a problem that, from what I hear, I don't play this game, but from what I hear, that the Call of Duty community is suffering from this, because the developers, they're just like, we're just not gonna deal with it. Like, whatever it is whatever it is. Too bad for you guys. So I'm hoping that those two things are addressed, and that's really why I'm making this video. And I want to see your concerns. If you could put them if you could put them in the comment section below. The meta, of course. The thing with the meta, though, because it's physics based, there can be an infinite way of playing it, where it will take so many years to truly master what works the best, to the nth degree. kind of like Smash Brothers. That created an evolution, and the meta of that game, it took so much time and so many players to figure out what's the best thing, what's not the best thing, what to do. And I think that because this is physics based, is going to go down that route where it may take years before anyone could really grasp what's the best thing to do in every possible scenario. And even then, it doesn't matter as long as it still represents an entertaining viewing experience for the viewers, because this is going to be an esports game. But basically with the modifications, that's huge. If somebody hits me with a jab, it gets me an instant KO. They modify the code or do something or add something on top of it so that whatever punch they throw just automatically does a flash knockout. That's going to be crazy. So we're going to have to see what they're going to do. But I implore the dev team to please have a system in place to ban cheaters, to keep them from playing the game, to create an anti-cheat system that detects modifications in game code and just basically eliminates them from being able to play against anybody. This is the thing that I'm hoping, and I'm wondering what their response will be to this. Are they going to tackle the cheating? Are they going to tackle what could possibly ruin the game for PC players? Because it's great to have a boxing game finally on PC, but it'll be horrible if it gets pooped on by the fact that these guys are modding the crap out of it just to get the #1 leaderboard position or just to get high in the leaderboard. And trust me, when people can do something, they will do something. Once again, guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. This is Edward, and I'm out.